Before we get started, I would appreciate if you could subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I'm going to be talking about today, the title of this video is going to be about the FedNow instant payment system that's going live in 2023, and it's basically going to be about whether they are going to be using XRP when launching in 2023, or whether they're going to be using XRP or not in general. So I did this vote, and 58% of the people that voted said yes, they're going to be using XRP in 2023. Now, this topic, from what I've seen, has caused some contention in the XRP community, where you have some content creators and people saying that the FedNow will use XRP for instant payments, and then on the other side, you have content creators and people saying they're not going to be using XRP. Now, after having heard both sides and doing my own research, I see the misunderstandings that are occurring from both sides, and here is my take on this based upon my own personal opinion, and I'm just a crypto enthusiast, not a financial advisor or anything of the likes, but here's my take based upon my opinion and my research. So what I see happening is that upon launch, FedNow does not need to use XRP to fulfill its purpose. However, in the grand scheme of things, when you actually understand the bigger picture and where the space is going, one day it very likely, probably will use XRP. And I'm going to break this all down in this video as simply as I can with the way I understand it and explain to you how I've got to this conclusion. So let's get started, shall we? So what is the FedNow system? The FedNow system is basically a real-time instant payment system service that's being developed in the United States, and it's going to be designed to offer uninterrupted 24/7, 365 days processing of payments, and will feature integrated clearing functionality, so the payments will be cleared, enabling financial institutions to deliver end-to-end instant payment services to their customers. So it's basically, in America, a domestic, real-time, instant payment system between financial institutions, between banks. Now, this concept is nothing new. It may be new to the States because the FedNow is being launched next year, but in other parts of the world, this system is nothing new. Now, the FedNow system is very similar to the UK's faster payment service system. This is the UK's faster payment service system, which was launched on the 27th of May 2008, and it basically does the same thing: instant domestic payments between banks in the UK. So in the UK, when we want to send a payment via bank transfer, it's pretty much instant, and the recipient usually receives it more or less at the same time you send it. And the reason why we can do this in the UK, and this is due to the FPS system, which is the faster payment service system that we have. So this is the UK's faster payment service system. The faster payment system is available day and night, 365 days per year, supporting the demand of personal and business customers since its creation in 2008. The service facilitates real-time payments of up to 1 million, initiated primarily online, mobile or via telephone banking for millions of individuals, businesses and charities across the UK. This is exactly what the FedNow system is going to be doing. In fact, virtually everyone with a bank account. This is made possible by the range of high street banks, building societies, challenger banks and other fintechs and payment service providers that connect safely and securely, either directly or indirectly, to the faster payment system central infrastructure. Exactly the same thing, but in America it's going to be the FedNow infrastructure. The FedNow system, from what I gather, is literally the United States version of a domestic real-time instant payment system between banks that will operate around the clock every day of the year, like the faster payment service system does in the UK. Also, the FedNow system, like the faster payment service system, is not really for high-value payments. Rather, the amount that can be sent with the FedNow system is going to be capped. I think it's going to be capped at $25,000 because it's mostly designed for retail and small business payments. Now, in America, the FedNow system is going to be for smaller payments, and then they have the FedWire system, which is more for the high value payments, and that's for larger payments between institutions and financial institutions, whereas FedNow is more for the smaller retail payments and small businesses. And the same thing in the UK, we have the FPS, Faster Payment Service System, for retail and small businesses, and then we have the CHAPS system in the UK, and that processes larger high-value payments. Now, the Faster Payment Service System in the UK for domestic instant payments does not use XRP or any DLT-based RTGS payment system in order to facilitate the real-time instant domestic transactions. It does not use XRP, and we've had this system in 2008. So bearing that in mind, FedNow, which is exactly like the FPS system in the UK, doesn't need to either use XRP for their domestic instant payments. There is no need for the FedNow system when it launches to use XRP for internal real-time domestic payments. Like I said, there are other systems around the world that are doing this, and they are not using XRP either. And another thing I'd like to say is there is no need to use XRP for instant domestic payments, because when a bank is sending dollars from one bank to another bank, what's the purpose of adding XRP in the middle? So you're going to convert the dollar into XRP just to convert it back again into the dollar? That makes absolutely no sense. It's basically adding an irrelevant step in the middle for no reason when it comes to dealing with internal domestic payments. And that's the reason why they're not going to use XRP. So now you may be wondering at this stage, you may have one or two questions. If they're not going to use XRP, then where is the liquidity going to come from for FedNow? And the second question you may be wondering is, but I thought FedNow is connected to Volante, which is partnered with Ripple, which means they will use XRP because Volante has a payment processor called VolPay, and Volante is also partnered with Ripple, and VolPay is connected to Ripple. So doesn't that mean FedNow is going to use XRP because it's connected with Volante? Well, I'm going to answer both of those questions in this video. So let's start off with the first question, and that is, where is the liquidity going to come from for FedNow's instant payments? Now it says, financial institutions participating in the FedNow service or their correspondents will need adequate funds or available credit in their master accounts at all times to enable continuous processing of instant payments. This may involve making internal adjustments or sourcing liquidity from another financial institution or a correspondent. To support financial institutions' liquidity needs, the FedNow service will allow financial institutions to transfer funds to each other within the service. Now bear that in mind. They're basically going to have a liquidity management system, and they mention that in their documents as well. And this liquidity management system is connected to various financial institutions that are participating with the FedNow service. And these financial institutions that are participating in the FedNow service would be providing the liquidity that's needed. And it says here, to support the financial institutions' liquidity needs, the FedNow will allow financial institutions to transfer funds to each other within the service. So they can all provide liquidity, and they can transfer to liquidity to each other where and when it's needed, from how I understand this. And it says there needs to be adequate funds available in the master accounts at all times to enable continuous processing of instant payments. That's where the liquidity is going to come from. The liquidity is not going to come from Ripple or XRP, but the liquidity is going to come from the liquidity management tool that will allow the participants and others to transfer funds to each other to support the liquidity needs of the instant payment systems. Now, the next question is, now that you understand where the liquidity is going to come from to provide the real-time instant payments, domestic payments for FedNow, is what about its connection to Volante, which is a Ripple partner, which means it has to be using XRP. So before I go into this, let's look at what is Volante and what do they do. So let's go to Volante, let's go to About Volante, and here it tells you what Volante does. So Volante is basically a major global financial technology company that partners with financial institutions of all sizes to help simplify their systems and processes with their solutions for payments and financial messaging automation. So as a global financial technology company, what it does, it basically helps other financial institutions and simplify their payment systems for them, simplify their systems, their payment solutions, their payment processing, and makes it easier for these financial institutions. So financial institutions can just partner with Volante, and Volante will do all that work for them as a global financial technology company. Let's look at some of the solutions that Volante offers. What are some of the solutions that Volante offers? So some of the solutions that Volante offers include domestic and cross-border payment processing, as well as handling of real-time instant payments for businesses via FedNow. And you can see here it says real-time instant payments, and it can do that via FedNow. And it also offers the ability to process domestic and cross-border payments from initiation to clearing. The FedNow real-time instant payment system will fall under Volante's domestic payments processing when they launch in 2023. And at this stage, that will not require Volante to use XRP, because XRP is an option for their cross-border payments processing. If you look at Volante's cross-border payments, they can expand your geographical reach with Swift, GPI, Ripple. You see, Ripple is a service that Volante can tap into, but they only tap into that service when it comes to their cross-border payments. However, FedNow is a real-time instant domestic payment system, so there would be no need for Volante to use XRP when processing FedNow payments for financial institutions, because it's a domestic payment service that we're providing. Do you understand? And that's something people fail to understand when they mention, oh, FedNow is partnered with Volante. Volante is partnered with XRP. That means FedNow is going to be using XRP upon launch. No, it doesn't mean that, because Volante offers multiple services. They can help process domestic payments and cross-border payments. Their cross-border payment leg does have Ripple as an option, whereas their domestic payment service does not need Ripple. And that's what FedNow is. It's part of the domestic payment system. So it does not need to leverage XRP or Ripple. So yes, FedNow is connected to Volante, which is partnered with Ripple, but it does not mean they will be using XRP. Just like in the UK, we're not using XRP for our faster payment service between banks, since there would be no need for them to use XRP for real-time instant domestic payments. We can even go back to the FedNow's FAQ section. Question number 21. What do they say? Will cross-border transactions also be available in the FedNow service? And they say at launch, the FedNow service will support only domestic payments between US depository institutions. Okay, so now there's this diagram that's been going around, and people are basically saying, check this out. This is how Volante is going to be using Ripple for their transactions via FedNow. And this diagram of Ripple being connected to Volante is only applicable to cross-border payments that are processed by Volante using Ripple to facilitate the transaction. It does not apply to domestic payments made by FedNow. That's all I can say on that, and I've already showed you why. So now, even if FedNow is going to use VolPay, which is a cloud-native payment solution for banks and financial institutions offered by Volante, let's look at some of the stuff that VolPay can provide. Even if they are going to use this, it still does not indicate that they must use XRP, as VolPay can offer domestic and cross-border payments. However, VolPay can offer Ripple services which leverages XRP for their cross-border payments that FedNow is not going to be doing at launch, as I've shown you, and I hope that's clear now. However, next question is it possible, when you look at the grand scheme of things, the bigger picture, for FedNow to potentially use XRP in the future at some point? Now, personally, I still believe, if you look at the bigger picture of cross-border payments, and if you connect the dots together, then yes, FedNow would potentially be using XRP in the future. Even though it's a domestic real-time instant payment system, it could still potentially be using XRP eventually in the future. And the reason I say that is because if you look at the documents from the BIS and also the European Central Bank, and I've done a video on this document here where I just basically deep dived into it. Check out the video. It's called The Holy Grail of Cross-Border Payments. In fact, if you have watched this video already, then you'll probably know how FedNow will potentially be using XRP, because I would have explained it in that video without even mentioning FedNow. In these two documents, they make it clear that one of the best ways to facilitate immediate, cheap, and universal cross-border payments is by linking RTGS payment systems together and by interlinking instant domestic payment systems together with a currency FX conversion layer and a CBDC interoperability. And it says it basically here in this abstract. Now, what you have to understand is that FedNow is basically an instant domestic payment system, and they're talking about interlinking these instant domestic payment systems around the world together with the ability to have an FX conversion layer and a CBDC interoperability function in order to facilitate cross-border payments. So do you see where I'm going with this? What systems can do that? Now, we'll check out this document quickly. Payment systems, wholesale payment systems, retail payment systems, and FPS. Now, if you look at FedNow, it's an FPS system. It's a faster payment service system. And they can be interlinked, either directly connected to one another, or rely on an intermediary or a payment infrastructure, forming a hub for a payment system to connect. What does that sound like to you? What system do we know that can be an intermediary, like an interface with all these instant domestic payment systems around the world and act as an intermediary to connect these different payment systems together? And that same system can also have a CBDC and FX conversion layer. What system does that sound like to you? If you haven't watched my video, watch the Holy Grail of cross-border payments, and I go into it even more. So it talks about the types of payment systems that can be interlinked. Wholesale payments. Now, wholesale payments are processed by chaps in the UK and FedWire in the USA. Retail payment systems and faster payment systems are very similar. They said here that FPS, the faster payment systems, are a subcategory of retail payment systems. The FPS system in the UK, the faster payment service system, is basically a faster payment system. The FedNow is basically a faster payment system. And they are talking about that these payment systems can be interlinked with each other in order to enhance or cross-border payments. And the type of currency arrangements, you can have a single currency, multi-currency, or cross-currency. What does a cross-currency sound like to you? Okay, now they do these diagrams. This is the interlinking payment systems by the BIS. They do these diagrams. Now, if you look at these diagrams, which one actually looks like, bearing in mind this picture is the bank and this circle is the payment system, which one actually looks like a system that our XRP, for example, Ripple, for example, could facilitate? This one right here, the hub and spoke system. So imagine you have the bank A and bank B. The bank A is the bank in America with the FedNow system right here. And the bank B is the bank in the UK with the FPS, the faster payment service system right here. In the middle, we have that interlinking system, and it could be a DLT-based RTGS payment system like Ripple. And what Ripple does, it interfaces with FedNow and it interfaces with the FPS system in the UK, and Ripple has that FX conversion layer, and it also has that CBDC interoperability for both banks, and it can enable instant, immediate, universal, fast, cheap cross-border payments between both countries by interlinking with their instant domestic payment system. This is something that they're talking about as a solution for cross-border payments. So basically, around the world, many countries have their own internal high-value payment system, their own high-value payment RTGS system, like the chaps in the UK and the FedWire in the USA. And also countries have their own internal faster payment system for instant domestic retail payments, like the FPS system, the faster payment service system in the UK, and the FedNow system in the US. And the idea that they are working on behind the scenes is to be able to interlink all these different instant payment systems. As you can see in these diagrams, they're showing different methods. behind the scenes is to be able to interlink all these different instant payment systems from the different countries that process high value payments and lower value payments together in order to enhance cross-border payments and replace their current model of correspondent banking and nostro/vostro accounts, which is tying up liquidity. They won't use this approach here, a common platform, because if you use a common platform, that means all the banks have to be using the same system, the same currency. And I don't see that working, where every bank around the world is going to say, okay, we accept this CBDC for cross-border payment and we accept this currency, and solely we're all going to use one system to process all our payments. No, we already know that the countries are building their own payment systems. They are building their own CBDCs. So the hub and spoke model here in these pictures fits where I think this is going. I don't think the common platform is going to be a solution. This bilateral link, this won't work. This probably looks like how it works internally between a bank A and bank B in the same country, and how FedNow may be working, how they do domestic internal payments, yes. But for cross-border payments, nope, this won't work, because jurisdiction B and jurisdiction A won't be able to interface and interlink with each other without an intermediary, and their CBDCs and currencies won't be interoperable without an intermediary. And single access point, this one here, this just looks complicated. I don't know what to make of this. But the only one that actually makes sense to me out of all of this is the hub and spoke model. So all these RTGS DOT based systems can do what they are talking about here, and they are all ISO 20022 compliant. Their systems are, their payment infrastructure is compliant with the ISO 20022 global messaging standard payment system, and all three of them leverage neutral bridge assets like XRP for Ripple, Stellar for IBM Mold Wire, and XDC for Impel. And these systems provide perfect interlinking solutions for all domestic instant payment systems. And this is how I believe FedNow will eventually use XRP through its connection with Volante. And this is where this diagram becomes relevant. Not when FedNow launches and they only process domestic payments, this diagram is not relevant. However, when they decide to go into cross-border payments, and that's the bigger agenda here, because they're already talking about it, the holy grail of cross-border payments is going to be a system that can interlink all these systems together. That's the bigger agenda here. So when all these instant domestic payment systems decide to go cross-border, this is where the FedNow system can use Volante, which is partnered with Ripple, to facilitate cross-border transactions between one instant domestic payment system to another instant domestic payment system cross borders. And that's how I believe FedNow will eventually use XRP through its connection with Volante in cross-border payments between two different faster payment systems. Just because FedNow doesn't plan to do cross-border payment transactions at launch, it does not mean they won't be doing it in the future through an interlinking payment system, when that is where the entire space is heading toward for enhancing cross-border payments between nations, as they are already telling us in their documents. So to conclude, I hope I have clarified the confusion between FedNow, Volante, XRP and so on, because they will not come right out and be explicit in telling us that they are going to leverage DOT-based RTGS systems with a neutral bridge asset like XRP to interlink all the domestic payment systems for cross-border payments. They won't come out and tell us that. And the proof of that is, you watch my video, The Holy Grail of Cross-Border Payments, you would see in this document, they don't even mention DOT-based RTGS payment systems. In this document here, they don't even mention DOT-based RTGS payment systems like XRP, XDC, XLM. Well, I'm naming the cryptocurrencies, but you know what I mean. Like Stellar, IBM Mold Wire, Ripple, and Impel. They don't mention these solutions, these types of systems in their documents. Instead, they leave ambiguous information out there. They give you like drips, drops, and drabs. And as a result, it leaves many people having to connect the dots ourselves. So that's what people are doing. We're taking pieces of information, we're connecting the dots, and it's very easy as a result of doing that to come to the wrong conclusions. And that's what's happening. We are basically having to connect the dots ourselves as to where this is all going. And if we just miss one piece in the puzzle, even though we're heading in the right direction, we can make little mistakes in the nuances of the details, and that can lead to the wrong conclusion. You have to understand that the powers that be are not going to make this easy for us by telling us and to just go and buy these X assets, as they will be leveraging them via their interlinking systems in cross-border payments. They're not going to come out and say that to us. Instead, even when they talk about interlinking payment systems and cross-border payments, sometimes they completely even ignore the DLT-based RTGS payment systems as a potential option. And they do that all the time. They ignore it. And they mention all these other solutions, but the solution. And I think it's deliberate why they do this on their part, because they are fully aware of what DLT-based tech offers them. It's not like they're ignorant. It's not like they're not aware of what Ripple has to offer. They are fully aware of what these systems have to offer, but they are deliberately not mentioning it in their documents. Because think about it. What do you think would happen if they just come out and say, oh yeah, we're going to be leveraging the DLT-based RTGS Ripple system for all our cross-border payments, and we're going to be using it to interlink FedNow with all the other instant domestic payment systems around the world, and we're going to be using IBM WorldWire to do the same thing for our retail payments, and for the FedWire and the CHAPS and all the major high-value payment systems, we're going to be leveraging Ripple. What do you think is going to happen to these X assets if they were to come out and tell us that right now? So that's why they're not telling us this. Instead, they just leave ambiguous information out there, and we are just putting the dots together to coming up to the conclusion that yes, they're going to be using this, even though they're not telling us this outright. So this is why if you are holding the X assets, you need to be steadfast, have a long-term vision, be thick-skinned, be able to hold through the FUD and market crashes, or when prices don't increase when you expect them to, because in the end, these assets, these X assets, are not for retail investors, but institutions. And when they decide to flip the switch and utilize them whenever they wish, only those that truly had the patience until then would benefit from it, potentially speaking. Most retail investors won't make it, unfortunately. And that's the reality. Most retail investors are just not going to make it because it's a long game and it requires lots of patience. And if you think they are unaware of these systems, just look at this. The Bank of England in 2017 was doing a Ripple proof of concept where they carried out a proof of concept with Ripple to explore the synchronized movement of two different currencies across two different real-time gross settlement systems linked using Ripple Connect and the Interledger protocol. So they are very aware that these DLT-based RTGS payment systems can be used to interlink their RTGS systems with other countries' RTGS systems in order to process cross-border payments. They are aware, and this was in 2017. This is why people have to be patient. You have to be thick-skinned, you have to have long-term vision, you have to be steadfast, and you can't fall for the FUD. And just think about this for a second. If November comes, because we know in November ISO 20022 is going to go live in the Eurozone and with SWIFT and so on. Now, if November comes and the price of the X assets did not budge, then what? What are you going to do? At this stage, the FUD would be intense if that happens. So what are you going to do? Are you selling or holding strong? And that's the difference basically between retail investors who will make it and those who wouldn't in this space. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell notification icon so as to not miss my next video. Take care and goodbye.